Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the World Class Championship Wrestling Review Series, and we are here entering the month of March 1988, and there's some good stuff in March of 88, better than I imagined there to be at this particular juncture. March 5th, 1988 is where we will start this particular journey, and Eric Emery and Bob Bradley versus the Simpson Brothers is our opening contest. Obviously, the Simpson Brothers are a mainstay in the area, and a pretty good run of it. Simpsons, obviously, Steve and Sean, and their opponents, of course, Eric Emery and Bob Bradley. Bradley has been in and out of the territory, goes on to become an enhancement talent for the national companies as well. Emery, he's been a pretty big deal here. Steve Simpson in with attempted sunset flip type stuff early, and Sean is a really bright spot. Good athleticism by Bradley. Bradley, of course, in WWF later as Battle Cat. Battle Cat, kind of a cool kids-based gimmick. Then we move on to Eric Emery. Emery kind of takes over on the younger Simpson. They've done battle already over the light heavyweight championship back and forth. I don't really quite understand why World Class felt the need to have one, but they did move in that way. Then we see the attempted figure four into leg grapevines and cravats, attempted submissions by the older Simpson. And of course, the Simpsons by this point are, well, I wouldn't say mainstay, I'd say a solid team in the area. It is the breakdown by Eric Emery that leads to some cheating and attempted victory. Knee lift by Emery. Emery going as hard as he can towards making things work for himself. And then the Simpsons do end up gaining a victory. Sean manages to hit his finish on one half of the team. And I mean, obviously the Simpsons going over makes the most sense. Speaking of making a lot of sense, Terry Taylor and Matt Bourne for the Texas title up next. Taylor in with the robe, and he is a heel right from the beginning. Amazed that he's only been on one, maybe two broadcasts if there's a more localized broadcast. And he's already in the Texas Championship picture. He must have been promised a big deal to come in. Anyway, Matt Bourne has been the Texas champion for several months at this point. It is very clear early that Taylor wants to be the brash heel. Arm work by Matt Bourne. Bourne tries to get an advantage on Taylor. Taylor is willing to cheat wherever he can. Bails out to the outside of the ring. And we see kind of more brawling from Taylor. They go to commercial. They come back. Both men are on the arena floor. Bourne throws Taylor to the outside, and they kind of brawl on the outside a little bit. Taylor takes back over on the champion. After the brawl, Taylor back in the ring and waiting for Bourne to return. Bourne, who feels that he's been wronged, goes right into the face of Taylor, starts beating him over the head pretty hard, sends him almost into the front row, but doesn't. Taylor is sent to the outside. Again, Bourne is frustrated by this whole thing, and then we move on to the close of the match. Taylor steals the championship, using the tights to get things going his way, and gets that victory. Michael Hayes in the middle of the ring with a promo basically saying he hadn't given up on wrestling, just was focused on the advancement of his musical career. He wants Al Perez. He's going to get Al Perez. They recap the interaction between Gary Hart, Al Perez, and Michael Hayes from last week. Hayes and Perez is your main event for this particular week. Hayes goes right at Perez, opens him up with a few shots early, and Michael Hayes is not willing to do anything other than go right at Al Perez. Perez bails out, and Michael Hayes is over like a hero in this area here. Cutoff attempted by Perez, arm ringer and arm bar by Hayes. Hayes also manages to slow the match down a bit, uses headlocks and kind of cranks on him. Gary Hart looks nervous on the outside of the ring. Hayes still holding down the fort pretty well, and Hayes drops the knee, misses the drop knee. This causes Perez to take over on the leg for the next few minutes. Hayes not having any of this long term, though. Perez uses the weakened leg for several minutes to try and gain a victory. Goes for a figure 4 leg lock. Hooks in the figure 4 leg lock, does the champion. Falls back with it. They fight quite a bit over the figure 4 for the next 2 or 3 minutes. And then Hayes back on his feet, but he can barely stand. Irish whip by Perez. Perez misses a clothesline. Again, Hayes still selling that leg. Gary Hart comes in the ring, gets laid out by Hayes. This is after the referee goes down. Referee is down and not conscious, so Hayes getting the advantage, including the DDT. Really doesn't seem to matter much because the referee is not conscious. Referee comes back to, and we see 1, 2, and Gary Hart interferes. Referee calls for the DQ finish, and Michael Hayes is victorious by disqualification. This match is worth, for this point in World Class, might not have been worth seeing by standards of 2-3 years ago in World Class, but by these standards, worth going out of your way to see this. And the follow-up promo in the weeks to come after this, one of the best Michael Hayes promos ever, maybe one of the best promos in Memphis in World Class ever. But anyway, we'll be back with more right after this.